Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Honeybee Stamp's Scandinavian Christmas stamp and coordinating die set. I'll also be using the Make It Merry and the Grain and Grunge paper collection, along with their stitched A2 rectangle dies. The new Make It Merry release has so many fun Christmas items. There is a layering guide available for the Scandinavian Christmas stamp set. Lots of different options. You can mix and match those pieces. And you can use this set with or without the coordinating honeycut dies, but I love having the dies. And one of the best things about Honeybee Stamp's die sets is they're pre-snipped, so you don't have to do any cutting. For my card, I'll be using one of the darker wood grain backgrounds, and I'll be layering it on some gold pearlescent cardstock. Since I'll be covering up most of that gold cardstock, I'll use a rectangle die and cut out the center, and I'll set that piece aside for another project. Then I'll put some ATG tape on the back and layer my pattern paper on that gold pearlescent cardstock. And I don't like to leave that cutout area since sometimes it'll be noticeable from the front of the card. It'll have that little dip. So I use some scrap cardstock and cut out another rectangle, and I'll just fill in that gap. I'll put my card front onto a card base, and this is an American Standard A2 size card. I use this stitched rectangle die to cut out this snowflake piece, and I'll be stamping one of the circle frames from the Scandinavian Christmas stamp set. I'm using Honeybee Stamp's Intense Black ink, and I will ink it up just a couple of times to get a good solid impression. I'm also using their stamping pressure tool to get a nice even impression. Next, I'll stamp the little polka dot string that'll hold that circle wreath, and I'm using the metallic gold ink from Honeybee Stamps. It's one of their new ink colors. Now this is a pigment ink, so it does take a little longer to dry. You can always speed up that process by heat setting it or doing some heat embossing. Now I'll add that piece onto the wood grain panel. To adhere it in place, I'll use liquid adhesive. Want to make sure that stitch edge lays nice and flat on my card. Now I'll set that aside so I can start working on the images to go inside my circle frame. I already have them all set up in my mini MISTI, and I'll be using an assortment of colors from Catherine Pooler. For the red berries, I have the cranberry fizz color. For some of the greenery, I'm using the sage color. For the darker green, I have the spruce ink color. And for the pine cone, I'm using the over coffee ink color. I decided for this card to use more of the traditional Christmas colors. So I have those different greens and the pop of red from the berries. Then I'll line up the honeycut dies with all the stamped images, and I'll hold those in place with some tacky tape. I'll cut down this piece just a little bit since I'll be using Honeybee Stamp's Bitty Buzz Cutter. This is the cutest little die cut machine, and I love that I can fit it on screen. It's also great for traveling if you're only cutting out smaller pieces. I've used other small die cut machines before, and they never felt very sturdy, but this one is nice and sturdy. You do have to apply just a little bit of pressure to hold it in place, but otherwise it doesn't really move around. So once I have all of those pieces cut out, I'll just peel off that tacky tape. Now I can start adding them to my circle wreath. And the cute blue tray that I'm using is the bottom of Honeybee Stamp's Shammy Case. It's perfect for storing some of those small elements while you're working on a project. Off screen, I did stamp out the bow, and I used the same cranberry fizz ink color for it. Now I'll start adding all of those pieces to my circle frame. And for most of the pieces, I'll be gluing them down using the precision tip glue. For the pine cone, I do have foam dimension on the back, and I'll adhere that in the center of the wreath. Just tuck all those other pieces around it. Make sure to put 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Then I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and add the bow to the top of the circle frame. Now I'll start working on the sentiment, and I'm using the sentiment that's included on the Scandinavian Christmas stamp set. This is "All is calm, all is bright." I'll stamp it using the metallic gold ink, and this time I'll do some heat embossing using some clear embossing powder. I did stamp out this sentiment twice since I wasn't happy with that first impression. I still put embossing powder on both of the sentiments and I'm heat setting them, mostly because I didn't want to accidentally smudge the ink. Then I'll use the coordinating honey cut die to cut out the sentiment. I love that Honeybee Stamps has coordinating dies to go with their sentiments, not just the images. And I'll pop up the sentiment using the thin foam strips from Honeybee Stamps. I'll adhere it toward the top of the card above the red bow. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add some Nuvo glitter drops. This is the Gold Coast color. I'll add some to the pine cone and also some of the foliage pieces. So there is my finished card, and I did make a total of 4 using this design. Since I had all of those stamps already set up in my multiple mini MISTIs, I decided I might as well make a few of them. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. The Scandinavian Christmas stamp set is so fun. I use the coordinating dies, but you could also stamp all of those images directly onto that circle wreath. Plus, you could use those images on their own. The possibilities are endless with this set. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.